Thanks all for joining us this afternoon for our Lunch and Learn. My name is Dean Young. I'm the Vice President of Industrial Development for GenEdge. For those of you who aren't familiar with GenEdge, I'll give a little bit of an overview in a minute. And we're here today to talk a little bit about an exciting program we have through the Go Virginia economic development entity called Retooling Virginia's Manufacturers for Strategic Industries. And we're actually in the second year of that program. We're getting ready to kick off the phase 2, which would be the second iteration of that program. So we wanted to give some information today about that program. I'm going to introduce GenEdge a little bit, and then I'm excited because we have Adam Watkins joining us today from VEDP, the Virginia Economic Development Partnership. And he's got some really interesting information to share about critical industries and how we expect to support those in the Commonwealth over the next several years, and where we think those areas of strength are for us in supporting critical infrastructure for the rest of the country. And then I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl Carrico. Dr. Cheryl Carrico is our program manager for this program. She's going to provide a program overview and go through some of the mechanics of it, why we are doing it, actually how it works, how we apply, get assessed, and get accepted into it. And then we'll save some time at the end for some questions as well. Just a few kind of logistics as we go. I've got everybody on mute, I think. But if you have a question as we go, if you could put it into the chat. While Adam and Cheryl are presenting, I'll monitor the chat, and then we can go ahead and ask those questions at the appropriate time. That way everybody can kind of share in that. I am recording this as well so that everyone can participate afterwards. So once this is over, we will share the link to the recording as well as the materials that were presented today. So that you can share those with your colleagues or other people that may not be able to attend, so that we can get the word out as best we can. For those of you who aren't familiar with GenEdge, we are Virginia's best kept secret, I think, but best public resource for helping manufacturing, engineering, and technology businesses innovate, compete, and grow. So we really are we're what's called a political subdivision of the Commonwealth of Virginia. We really are economic development based and are affiliated with a national program through the Department of Commerce, through the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, called the MEP National Network, or the Manufacturing Extension Partnership National Network. We have served that role for the Commonwealth since 1994. So while we provide management and technology consulting, we provide expertise to manufacturing and technology companies in the Commonwealth to try to help them grow, to help them become more competitive. We walk and talk like consultants, but at the end of the day, we really are economic developers. We're really here to help those companies grow. And one of the ways we do that is we employ a lot of partners, and we work with our direct employees, but also an extensive network of third-party providers that help us kind of provide a breadth of services and reach companies where they are so that we can help those companies that are our target. So if you look at kind of the things we do, we engage with companies as trusted advisors to help them understand kind of where their strategy is, where they're headed, what their commercialization strategies are. And then we have a breadth of services that we can help them from a competitive perspective, whether that's trying to drive top line growth through market development or other areas, product development, new product development, diversification, or bottom line cost savings in terms of things like process improvement or places where we can use advanced manufacturing technology to help those companies become more competitive. So we're here to serve the manufacturing base, and that's one of the reasons why we ended up with this program. So I'm going to let Cheryl go into the program in much more detail when it comes to her time, but this program is really geared towards helping address those shortages or those kinds of potential risks in the supply chain for critical industries based on over-reliance on imported product. And really, we're trying to help reshore or rebring some of those capacities and capabilities for producing critical products and infrastructure back into domestic sources, but primarily Virginia sources. And we're really here to try to help Virginia's manufacturing community grow its capability to help support those critical industries. So that's kind of my segue into, I guess I will stop talking a little bit about who GenEdge is and the commercial will end. And I'll let Adam go ahead and share his screen. And Adam's going to give us an update on some work that VEDP has been doing in terms of identifying those critical infrastructure sectors where Virginia has particular strength or opportunity, so that we can help support those with this program. So Adam, I'll introduce you and let you take it from there.
Thanks, Dean. So I'll give a little background about myself. My name is Adam Watkins. I'm with the Economic Competitiveness team at the Virginia Economic Development Partnership. For those of you that aren't familiar with VEDP, we're the state's economic development organization, and our principal functions are to really attract new companies to Virginia, and really grow different ecosystems of industries in Virginia. So we work on those two fronts. And the specific why we were brought here by Dean and Cheryl and GenEdge is because we recently did a study coming out of understanding what has happened in the past 2 years with COVID on what are some of the sub-industries that VEDP or that Virginia is very well positioned for over the next couple of years to capture and to grow, given all the changes that have happened. And it's not just all COVID related. We're seeing a confluence of both like global changes because of COVID that have created more reshoring opportunities and remote working opportunities, but also a lot of technology changes that have happened in the past 5 to 10 years around sustainability, e-commerce, data, machine efficiency. So these things are all coming together at the same time. And so we wanted to really understand what sub-industries of the ones that we focus on at a high level are really going to be driving the growth in the Commonwealth over the coming years. So we applied to the Economic Development Administration for a grant to conduct this study. And then we hired the Boston Consulting Group, they're a group that has deep industry expertise. And they identified 21 sub-industries that we should be focusing on and that our regional partners should be targeting. So that's our goal coming out of this, is really understanding better what these sub-industries are, and collaborating with partners like GenEdge to help facilitate the growth and building out the critical infrastructure to facilitate the growth and development of these sub-industries. I'll take a quick step back. So VEDP over the past about 5 years have really been in an iterative process with developing our strategic plan and strategies for the Commonwealth, as well as what industries and sub-industries we should be pursuing. So back in 2017, we laid out about 12 to 14 overarching industries. So think automotive or advanced manufacturing. So broad categories that we really wanted to focus on, and have been implementing strategies as an organization to focus on those and attract those industries over the past 5 years. And really, given the changes that we've seen since 2020, began thinking about how we can add more sub-industries or really hone in on specific components of those industries that we already know are our strengths. And these are all export focused industries. A lot of them are manufacturing focused industries. So what we have done now is trying to really hone in on what those targets are. What is the specific growth segments of those industries, of the automotive industry, of the software industry, of the biotech pharma industry, and really looking at those through the lens of these industry players, which that's the lens that BCG was able to bring. The objectives of this study that we did over the past 3 months was identify these sub-industries that are poised for growth, really align which regions of the Commonwealth. We work with 18 different regional organizations that are focused on economic development. So aligning which of those sub-industries fit with each region, and then which action steps and recommendations should we be following and taking in order to secure that growth, to attract these companies and help grow ecosystems around each of these sub-industry areas. So what BCG gave us in the end, we have 9 sub-industry playbooks. So of the 21 they identified, they gave us information on all of them, but really dove into 9 of those sub-industries that would, if we focused on them, would be major drivers for growth over the next 5 years, 5 to 10 years for VEDP and the state. So they gave us summaries of those sub-industries, the decision factors, what companies think about when they decide to expand or relocate to an area, and then what specific steps based on Virginia's case should VEDP, regions, and partners be leveraging to overcome obstacles and capture growth. They looked at our industry list. They had talked to lots of regional players, including 15 of our 18 regional groups, looked at different data sets and unique analyses, and also talked with, I think over 60 by the end, 60 different experts and industry players to really get a whole picture of like what the industries need, what VEDP or what Virginia's situation is, and what the levers are that we could activate over the next 5 years. And so basically they took all those inputs in, they narrowed it down based on which sub-industries are the best fit, but also the best fit across Virginia. So we really wanted to make sure that both the Southwest was as represented as the Northern Virginia, as Hampton Roads, and then Southern Virginia and Shenandoah Valley. All of those regions are equally represented in the sub-industries that they recommended and the levers and action steps that they wanted us to take. So that's how they narrowed down this prioritized list of 9 sub-industries. But we really want to focus with you all on the list of 21 that VEDP is going to be focusing on when we do our attraction efforts over the next couple of years. Because where this plays into is you guys have an opportunity, in GenEdge, why we think this is a good partnership with them, is that you have an opportunity to play into the industry verticals in a lot of these spaces. So these are the 21 opportunity areas you see at top is our VEDP's overarching industries, and this is how each of those sub-industries fit. I'll note that the size of these do not reflect the size of the industry. It's just kind of to say the space that these sub-industries kind of fit in. So like electric vehicle batteries and parts fit across automotive and aerospace, plastics packaging fits across everything from supply chain to pharma. So this is kind of the space that VEDP hopes to play in, and we think that GenEdge is able to work with companies, and this is the value that our partnership has, is to really help companies retool, and Cheryl's going to talk about this later, but really help contribute to the industry verticals that will provide really good groundwork for these industries to grow. So happy to take any questions on this. We also have some backups that we're going to share with you on each of these 21 sub-industries, and just a quick summary of why there's a case for growth. But happy to discuss kind of our process and some of the industries that came out of this, and any thoughts that you guys have.
I believe you should be able to unmute if you wish to ask the question.
Adam, were there any surprises with these 21 sub-industries that you guys came up with?
Surprises, I think the biggest surprise is kind of like the recommendations around the biotech space, because that's something that Virginia it's been really nascent, mostly in Central Virginia, a little bit in Northern Virginia for a while, but they see a huge opportunity kind of across the Commonwealth for a greater manufacturing space in some of these life science areas. That if we put a lot of investment in, they highlighted the kind of like having a biotech hub and spoke model in really that stretches from Hampton Roads through the Charlottesville area, but also beyond that in some of the more manufacturing oriented parts. So that was really exciting to hear, and there was a lot of energy and excitement around that specifically. I also have my colleagues, I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce Emily Fay and David Devan on as well. They both are on the team and they work extensively on this project as well. So I don't know if you guys want to jump in and add any surprises that you got from this project.
I can speak to the elements that were not surprises, Tracy. So the majority of these are industries that we're targeting, and really, you know, the project added value in two ways. One was to confirm that those are aligned with Virginia's value proposition. And then the second was they really helped us flesh out, you know, what are the key elements that we need to accomplish in order to be, you know, more competitive and to really build an ecosystem in those industries. And then they also made some estimates of, for the specific elements for, you know, building the ecosystem for each industry, what are the jobs and investment required to do those, you know, what would the jobs impact be, and what would it cost to actually build that out? So we kind of have a cost per jobs estimate for each of the very specific implementation recommendations that they made.
Can we see the regions that you see aligned with these different industries? Do you have a slide for that?
I don't have a slide for that. And I'll double check and to see if we could, we'll share that with this packet as well, but I'll let you know, Tracy.
We do have that, Tracy, just not in this presentation. So
yeah,
let us double check. Yep.
I think we all just want to know what our strengths are according to what you guys think.
I hear you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Adam, how are you all aligning these industries with the Go Virginia regions and their targeted industry clusters? And then what are the NAICS codes that go along with these individual industries?
Yeah, so I'll answer the second question first because it'll be quicker. The NAICS codes are a little bit trickier because some of them go across, some of them aren't as well defined. So a lot of this is, and what we're seeing as a weakness of the NAICS code system in the recent years is that it's tries to separate out technology and manufacturing when they're more and more combined. So a lot of like the sensing tech, a lot of that is software heavy jobs, but also there's manufacturing into it as well. So a lot of it is defined. We like BCG mostly focused on like giving examples of companies and players in that space to understand like what sensing tech is, because it's not as easily defined in the NAICS code areas. In terms of GOVA, we're gonna work with them to show like what we have done and what different opportunities are. And I think, as Tracy alluded to, we'll share the regional fits with them as well. So they'll understand like as they develop their plans, growth and diversification plans, how they should fit and target their industries. Generally, they should be pretty aligned already. I don't think there will, like David said, I don't think there'll be too many surprises with them either.
Yeah, Jennifer, on that point. So when we first started this, we went to, we gathered every growth and diversification plan and every other kind of target industry analysis and piece of strategy work that had been done by either Go Virginia regions or the regional economic development organizations. And we asked the RETOs to also send us additional content that their localities might have produced or that didn't fall into one of those buckets, but might be adjacent. And so, I mean, we had hundreds of strategy documents that that was the starting point for our work with the Boston Consulting Group was, what are people focused on already? And then how can we define the universe of potential industries and sub-industries that we look at to start with? So that was a building block. This work, built on that. And then, as Adam said, it will go back out to be shared with the Go Virginia regions so that it can be included in the growth and diversification plans, which Sarah was kind enough to extend that somewhat so that we could finish our project, the deadline for the growth and diversification plans, so that we could finish our project and share the results of it. And you would still have time to incorporate some of that insight.
That might be really helpful to tell the regions that we are supposed to include this in our plan, because as the coordinator for Region 6, I had no idea about this information. So I'm glad that I was on this call.
Good to know. Yeah.
Adam, I've got a question on the chat. Curious why cyber is shown only under data and software?
That is another example of how a lot of this doesn't fit in a good box. I think like the focus on most cyber companies is when we attract them, they kind of fit in this data management space and software space, but obviously cyber works, especially increasingly for autonomous vehicles and other players. So there's becoming more and more some confluence between the two, but that's kind of what it's not going to narrow our focus to just like data management cyber companies and software cyber companies, but that's when we look at what cyber companies need in terms of their driving factors for relocation and expansion. It fits under those specific categories the most.
Yeah, I could second that from the not clean boxes. We did one of the reasons why we engaged with Adam and his team is we tried to take a look at similar kind of an analysis top down, and we couldn't find real differentiation or areas. And there's so much overlap. And somebody asked the question of NAICS codes earlier, so much overlap in different targets that it was difficult to kind of clearly communicate what those boxes look like. So I would assume that cybersecurity would underpin all of those critical industries because there's an element of technology in all of them. So,
yeah, no, exactly.
Bill Stahl has also asked, how is the effort aligned with Virginia Chamber's Blueprint 2030?
We gave the Blueprint 2030 document to BCG, so they took a look at that to help understand kind of what the strengths are of the Commonwealth, and understand like how other organizations in the Commonwealth are seeing these. But that was definitely incorporated in the analysis itself.
Toy Hunters asked a couple of questions. Number one, engineered wood, could you define?
Hi, Toy. Good to see you again. So engineered wood is, I'll try to do my best definition because I'm not the expert of it yet, but engineered wood is the space of kind of where there's like special types of trees that are given that
Adam, I might be able to speak to this.
Yeah, you probably know. You've worked more with this space than I have.
Yeah, so Toy, engineered wood is usually taking wood in a broken down form and using adhesives and heat and pressure to squeeze it into a form which is much stronger and lighter than normal wood. It's being used in buildings as a replacement for steel. Some of the biggest concerns with it are, is it approved in building codes? It is in most now allowable most building codes in Virginia, and then it's an education piece of our architects and engineers designing structures with this material in mind. So there are some uptake concerns there, but it's essentially a wood-based product which is much stronger than regular wood for building structures.
Her second question is potential innovation ecosystems defined as research and development hubs?
Yes and no. So a lot of these innovation ecosystems, they see as long-term plays for Virginia. So stuff that we should be going at, some stuff that we will really start to see growth in if we target these innovation ecosystems and really try to build out infrastructure around them in the next 10 years rather than in the next 5 years. So these are more of the long-term plays that we should make in these spaces. A lot of it does have to do with R&D though, I will say, and a lot of the biotech stuff that we've talked with them about is what's going on at UVA around Virginia Bio and Seville Bio. A lot of the autonomous efforts are based on programs that are going on in at Virginia Tech. So there's a lot of innovation that will lead into some growth in that industry.
Adam, that was one of the criteria, I believe, is that they were looking at, if I remember from our discussion, that areas where we may have the potential to innovate in a particular supply chain and provide new solutions are good areas to be able to reshore, because you end up, instead of trying to compete at the commodity level with something at a price point, it's really about bringing more value to the table and kind of taking the next leap in technology that makes those commodities obsolete. That's correct. Does that make
Right,
sense?
exactly. And a lot of these are very nascent industries in Virginia, or just in general, like precision agriculture, and a lot of the autonomous science is still really being developed and not like fully marketable yet. So yeah, that's exactly right.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none, silence is consent. I will move on, I guess. Adam, thank you very much. That's very, very helpful. David and Emily, appreciate the input. I think it's very important for us to understand kind of from what the lay of the land looks like in terms of Virginia and where those opportunities are. So we certainly appreciate that insight. I'm going to move
Absolutely.
on to Cheryl's part of the presentation. Let Cheryl talk to you a little bit about what we intend to do about it. So I think there are some opportunities for us in these spaces. The real question is then, what is this program about, and how do we anticipate trying to help build some of these capabilities for the Commonwealth? So Cheryl, I'm going to let you take it away with the program overview. I'll drive the slides for you if that's okay. And I'll introduce again Dr. Cheryl Carrico, who's our program manager for this retooling program.
Thanks, Dean. Just to recap a little bit what the need is, again, we're in the second year of a 2-year program. And when the pandemic hit, not just PPE, which we focused on last year, but a large number of commodities, I think we all had a pain point somewhere, either in our personal lives or where we work, a recognition of issues, supply chain gaps, supply chain slowdowns, cost increases, quality, et cetera, that was really escalated because of the pandemic last year. So the impetus of this program is to try and reduce that supply chain risk. So the opportunity was that through Go Virginia and some other partners that I'll show in a minute, GenEdge has developed this program, and it's led by Go Virginia Region 1, but it is across the entire Commonwealth. So this is actually the first Go Virginia project that encompasses the entire Commonwealth. There's about $4.5 million in investments between Go Virginia and NIST and GenEdge and some other players as well. The program runs through next June. I'll talk about that with the timeline that we have to let people be aware of it. But what we're trying to do, is Dean mentioned a minute ago, we're really trying to help companies that are trying to either grow a product into a new industry segment, because that can help their company diversify, have some agility if and when things may fluctuate, and or just for growth, or companies that have new products that may be similar to work they're already doing that they want to try and sell within their current focused industries. So there's 2 different ways we're trying to help companies. Again, it's growing your products into new industry segments, or a new product within some of the industry segments that you already are a member of the supply chain for. And what we're trying to do is make sure that if and when things happen in the future, that we're better prepared. We have less likelihood of supply chain disruptions, less likelihood of worrying about quality of products, lead times of products, et cetera. So it's important that we make sure within the Commonwealth that we not only support the supply chain for OEMs and Tier 1 companies in Virginia, but that we also support exporting these products and items and capabilities outside of Virginia. So there's a few goals that this program has at the highest level, and then I'll kind of focus and nest down into what does it look like for individual companies that may be interested in this program. Again, it's a 2-year program. We plan to serve 50 companies, 30 companies in this second year. And based on the history of GenEdge and the impact they tend to have with companies, we hope to create or retain 500 jobs, retain revenue of over 100 million over a 5-year period. And also the investment that these companies will be making in machinery, tooling, et cetera, of about $10 million. So it is a large program, and there's a lot of folks working on it to try and help these companies do this. In terms of goals for individual companies, I'll go through the nuts and the bolts and the logistics of companies applying and being approved. But for companies that are approved in the program, what we really want to help you do is develop your commercialization plan for your product or capability. And I'll talk about what those can be in a couple of slides. And then support you with whatever either resource barriers you might have, support you because of schedule constraints or other items to leapfrog you into that commercialization and actually be at a point where you're ready to be selling the product or capability. It is important to also understand that these are services provided by GenEdge. It's a 90-10 cost share split, but this program does not include capital expenditures for companies. We are not able to reimburse for work that is already done, and we don't provide funds directly to companies. So the kind of funding we have from, the 4 or 5 different funding sources puts some restrictions. So we want to be very, very clear about that from the beginning, that we help companies with resources to commercialize their product or capability. We don't go backwards in time to reimburse, nor is this a grant program where you receive a check to do internal work. And if you have questions about that, we can certainly put them in the chat and we'll talk about those at the end. So this slide, just again, to kind of reiterate some of the folks that are helping with this. We have VEDP's been a partner, VMA, Virginia Hospital and Healthcare Association, and they were more involved last year when we were focusing on PPE. Obviously, Go Virginia is a big partner in this. And then GenEdge is part of the MEP system, the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, which is really a national network. So those that aren't familiar with GenEdge, one of the other things we bring to the table is the ability to reach out to the other MEPs in each of the other 50 states in Puerto Rico to help with resource availability and expertise and specialty offerings. And then the next slide shows a little bit of our setup in Virginia. So there are 7 regional growth managers, and this slide, depending on where you're located, will show you which of the 7 regional growth managers represent your region. So for those of you who, again, are fairly new to GenEdge and this idea, I encourage you, we'll send out the slides, but I encourage you to reach out to your regional manager, because beyond this program, there's quite a few resources GenEdge may be able to help you with as you try and grow your business and pivot into new product areas. So again, the objective for this second year of the program, we're trying to focus on critical manufacturing products and capabilities that can help ensure that the supply chain is strong and robust. In particular, we're trying to align with the industries that Adam was talking about earlier, so that the tier 1 and OEMs can make sure that their supply chain is strong. And we want to help the companies that do that ensure that their supply chain is strong. So when you start to think about the supply chain as having 5 or 6 levels, we're targeting companies that are somewhere in the middle of that area, though they may also sell directly to consumers. Again, we're trying to support 30 companies. We've already approved 9 companies, and we continue to go through the assessment. So once all those slots tend to be filled, then that will be full, I guess, is all I know to say about that. So not that you have to rush today, but we do encourage you, if you're interested in applying to this program, reach out to me, reach out to your regional manager, fill out the application, and we'll get you going on that. So this slide looks a little bit different than Adam's slide, but when we were talking with them, we realized there really is a lot of synergy and overlap and support. So this slide talks about some of the different industries that are important and critical. And as Dean said, we tried to figure out how can we support each of these industries, and really what we start to realize, and partly based on NAICS codes, GenEdge's expertise, and some other things, the critical manufacturing capabilities support all the industries. So our focus is supporting manufacturing companies that provide a critical support into the supply chain. So again, it may be a company that currently is producing products in the chemical industry, and they're thinking that they want to or need to grow and add on to it, perhaps food and agriculture. But they may need support doing that. They may not know the players in that. There may be additional certifications that a company needs in order to do that. They may need to understand their supply chain a little bit better, as well as their potential customers a little bit better. And we want to help companies do that through the commercialization planning and then resources. It may be that a company is in the transportation systems industry, but they have a hard time competing with overseas for different products that they make. We want to help them think about how can they differentiate their products from maybe lower cost, lower quality overseas products to help them penetrate the market a little bit better or become a preferred supplier, not just based on low cost. So again, we go through this commercialization planning with companies to help think about your products, your capability, your benefits, your ability to manufacture in a lean environment, your ability to have multiple supply chain sources to help your cost, maybe automate part of your process, and then be a little bit stronger supplier within the supply chain. So the timing of the program is important also. Again, we're in the second, we call it phase 2, but the second year of the program. We opened up our application portal July 1st. We accept those applications until the program is full. We do an assessment that I'll talk about in a minute to understand where companies are in their commercialization, what they're trying to do, how they're trying to pivot and grow. That information we provide with information on the industry that you're involved in and where you are in Virginia to an advisory committee, and those committee meetings occur once a month. So the next one is September 20th. The one after that is October 18th. And it'll be the third Monday of each month until the program's full. We have about 20 slots remaining. So there's a high probability that by the October meeting, we'll be full. So again, we encourage you to read about the program, apply if you're interested. If you have questions, reach out to us so we can help you understand the program a little bit better. Companies then go through that commercialization planning and then the resource support that I have a couple of slides on. And again, I'll go through some of these slides fairly quickly because we'll be sending the slide deck out later. So the application it takes maybe 10, 12 minutes. You go online, we have the link here. It's going to ask if you're growing or pivoting your opportunities, the industry sector you're interested, your strategy, your timing. If you need help within the next month, that's probably too soon for us to help. If it's 2 years out, that's probably too late for us to help. So we ask about that. And then what in your mind makes this a critical reshoring opportunity? Because again, fundamentally, that's the basis of this program. Dean? After you apply, we'll talk to you about the program a little bit and set up an assessment. And again, the assessment's just to see where you are in the commercialization process. There is no sweet spot for that. We just want to make sure we understand where you are to help ensure that we can help you advance where you are and advance with the timing that you've talked to us about and the timing of the program. So we ask questions in the areas that are listed here. It takes about 2 hours. There's no pre-work needed. It's just what the decision makers of the company know on the top of their head. Next one, please. We take that to the advisory council, and if companies accept it in, then we have a 2-phased approach from there. The first one is the business commercialization plan. All the companies accepted go through this. It's several half-day meetings. We push on your product, we push on your technology. We hope to make sure that it's being vetted, that the risks are being surfaced, that the gaps are being surfaced, that the manufacturing readiness is really where you think it is, and that the marketing approach is really where you think it is. The outcome of that is a plan, and the plan is used to help with the detailed resources that we may help you with. Again, this is just a snapshot. I'm not going to go through each of these, but this slide is intended to help you understand that this commercialization plan is in itself a product and an actionable product that in year one, we've gotten a lot of good feedback on the value of this commercialization plan and helping companies to think through tough questions, right? It's easy to think that you have a great shiny object that everybody wants to buy. We come in and push on that great shiny object and say, how do you know people want to buy it? How do you know they know about your product? How do you know you can manufacture it as well as you want to? And that's what comes out of this plan. So in itself, it is an actionable product. The specialized resources that come out of that could be related to marketing. It could be related to manufacturing. It could be related to design development and prototyping. Again, it just depends on how the timing works out, the cost of the items needed, resources companies already have versus gaps in resources that companies have. So as an example, one company may need help with prototype and design because their staff can't handle that during the time of this program. Another company may want support with marketing for the same reason. A third company may need help with the manufacturing processes and work instructions or certification. So it's really, truly tailored at this point for each company. And the equation we're trying to balance is really, if somebody thinks they can sell 10 million widgets, that's great, but you got to be able to make 10 million widgets in that same time. And just because you can make 10 million widgets, you got to be able to make sure you can sell those 10 million. So that's the mantra we keep talking about during this entire process. And then this is just a snapshot of the kinds of service offerings that GenEdge provides. GenEdge, and we use third-party providers to help support this. The outcome of the commercialization plan may be a deeper dive into the company strategy and what does it really look like that you're trying to do. It may be assisting with your new product development, prototyping, ISO certifications, FDA certifications, understanding how to penetrate into a new market area. Again, if you're going maybe from automotive transportation into aerospace, understanding the differences in those markets, how to provide business development expertise to you in those areas, or the requirements, right? The tolerances and requirements may be sufficiently different. And how do you do the quality part of that work? So GenEdge is prepared and able to assist with all of those different areas. That's a fairly quick run through of the program, but hopefully sufficient to have a couple of questions come forward at this point.
What questions do you have about the program and how it works? Maybe the intent or what we're trying to accomplish, or potentially what kind of services you could get out of the program? Cheryl must have done an outstanding job of explaining it.
Or I just confused them all.
or we're all overwhelmed. Steve?
Yeah, Cheryl, you gave me some guidance to pass on to folks when they're filling out the application. the essay question part of the application. You want to talk to that? Because I know there's 2 or 3 on this call that are we're waiting for this briefing, and then they're going to go fill out the application. So do you remember the guidance you gave me to give them?
Well, I can say that there's roughly about 8 questions. Some of them are check boxes, and some ask for, as Steve said, essays. We don't need a 3-page explanation for any of your essay answers because we do an assessment follow-up. What we're looking for are fairly short elevator type responses. Again, when we ask the question, what do you think makes this a critical reshoring activity? We're looking for the fairly short version, but if you have any data, if you have articles or other information that says this is important to the US to reshore, or this is a need, or OEMs are saying we wish we had or could get something, put that in. That's important to put in. If you don't have that's okay. Again, we'll talk about it during the assessment, but it's very helpful to us if you have data like that, because that really strengthens your position when we go forward with your company as a potential candidate for the program.
For those of you online, I just launched a poll with just a few quick questions. If you could answer those, we'd certainly appreciate it. We'd like to capture some feedback from this as well. But we will be sending out again the slides. In the email, I will make sure to reference the link to the application. If you have any questions on any of it, you can always find all that information at genedge.org, our website. There's a link off the home page right at the very beginning for the program. So you should be able to get all this information there as well. But certainly be interested in any other questions you might have in terms of the program, the mechanics, or if you've thought of something to ask for Adam and his team, we can always refer back to that as well.
I will add, while people are maybe thinking if they have any questions, I will say, and I think I speak for all the folks at GenEdge, it's been an exciting program. It's amazing what we've learned about some of the capabilities and products that people are working on in Virginia. And the variety of it is such we can't give examples in all areas. But if you think you're whatever it is you're thinking of growing and adding, whatever is part of your strategic plan, if you think it might be a fit, please consider applying or speaking with us. It is a very broad focused program on purpose. And we are trying to capture companies across the entire Commonwealth, all of the regions. We want to capture companies across the variety of different industry areas that Adam spoke of, and also at different levels in the supply chain. We're working with some small companies, and we're working with some medium-sized companies at different levels in the supply chain, and all of that's a good fit for the program. So it is a broad aperture, but myself and the team at GenEdge, we'll worry about how that really ends up looking. If you think you fit, consider applying.
I'll second that. I mean, the goal of the program is really to rebuild or to help reshore some of that lost capability, manufacturing capacity that has gone overseas or that we've lost both as a nation and both as a Commonwealth over the last several decades. And really intending here to try to build some of that strength back and focus it in all the regions of the state to let all 9 regions within the Go Virginia structure benefit. I think we've had participants from across the Commonwealth in the first year of the program, and we anticipate the same in the second. So really looking forward at kind of building a broader capacity for the Commonwealth as we move forward.
And the new technology that we're being exposed to is exciting as well, because again, that could be one of those key differentiators to help us stay vibrant and help us stay a necessary part of the supply chain, both for within Virginia and the US, but also for export, right? So that's important too, for us to be at the forefront of the technology that makes us critical to other countries that they need to be thinking about purchasing our products.
Absolutely.
Looks like Steve
Yeah.
has a hand up.
Sure, Cheryl, and this is just clarification that was helpful to me, so it might be helpful to others. Their industry or the business that they're in does not have to have already moved to China or Mexico or somewhere else for them to be in this program, right?
That's correct. If it's critical that it be in the US, it could be viable. There are also some companies that their competition is in Europe. So it's not necessarily the common characters we think about or that were really highlighted last year. There are some companies that there may be only one other supplier of something, or they may be just about the only supplier of something. That also makes it critical.
I mean, at the end of the day, if the company can draw a link between what it does and how it supports those critical capabilities for the nation or the Commonwealth, then they've got a good shot at being in the program.
Hey, I just thought I would jump in for a second. This is Bart Heenan. I'm the CEO of Morphix Technologies, which is one of the companies that was fortunate enough to be approved in the first round. And I just throw this offer out to any other, companies out there who are thinking about applying. If you would like to talk to another peer at a different company who's already been through the process of at least applying and being through an assessment, I'd be happy to talk to anyone. If you want to just give me a call or whatever, I'd be happy to talk to anyone.
Thanks, Bart. That's very generous. Appreciate that very much. Bart's a great guest. So if you want to learn a lot about a lot of different things, Bart's got a lot of knowledge about a lot of different areas. So it'd be worth the phone call, I would guarantee you.
Don't oversell me, Dean.
Are there any other questions, comments?
I'll put my phone number in the chat just so everyone has it.
Appreciate that. I certainly appreciate everybody's time today. Hopefully this was interesting or entertaining. You've learned something, I hope, today, and hopefully that the program is a good fit for some of the folks online as well. But certainly appreciate the time. I think I'll give you a couple of minutes back to your day. If there are no other questions, we can wrap. But thank you again on behalf of GenEdge, on behalf of Go Virginia. I certainly appreciate your interest in the program, and hopefully we'll see you on down the line. If you are interested, please hit genedge.org and you'll be able to see the application link. If you need more information, hit the Connect page and talk to your local regional growth manager, and they can help you out, or certainly you can find Cheryl's contact information on there as well and work with her directly. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much. And hopefully everybody have a great day and stay safe.